The video you just saw was recently created to help make OEMs aware of the advantages of partnering with Geotab's connected car platform. Today's presentation will talk about why these partnerships are important, market trends to be aware of, and the process of bringing a product to market. Then Aaron Demers, a solutions engineer at Geotab, will dive into some of the technical aspects of OEM integrations and the differences between Geotab-derived data and OEM data that could be meaningful to your customers. So why should you and why does Geotab care about OEM data? This fictitious quote sums up why getting data direct from OEM embedded hardware is important, now and in the future. Yes, I want to go through the hassle of installing aftermarket hardware and take my vehicle off the road and not generate revenue and pay for that hardware and then pay for someone to install it, said no fleet manager ever. The connected car is a major trend in the automotive industry. After many years of development and false starts, telematics has gained momentum, and virtually all of the world's leading car makers have launched mass market services in key regions. The drivers behind adoption of OEM telematics are both commercial and regulatory. As you can see by this chart, the many built-in components of an embedded architecture is what makes an attractive option for some fleets. Although, as we will discuss, it may not be the perfect solution for all fleets. If we look at where the market is headed from a connected vehicle perspective, the trend is definitely toward embedded solutions versus a factory fit or OBD product. As you can see by this chart, the market size of embedded telematics solutions will grow at a much faster rate. Car data from 130 million embedded devices are already being collected today. That will grow to close to 600 million embedded devices installed in cars worldwide by 2030. Geotab wants to be the operating system of the connected vehicle, whether it's connecting vehicle data and bringing it into my Geotab or into another platform. And it needs to be simple, scalable, and secure. Just as a business would prefer not to install third-party hardware for the reasons I just mentioned, they also don't want to have to log into multiple portals to see data from different brands of vehicles in their fleet. Having one view of all their data is what is wanted, and is what Geotab's OEM integration provides. Connected vehicle technology is finally going mainstream. OEMs are ramping up their connected vehicle production. So what's the value proposition for our mutual fleet customers? Cost for sure, no hardware or install fees. Being able to get all vehicle and driver behavior insights in a single pane of glass, regardless of mix of brands in a fleet, and access to additional data. This new connectivity opens an opportunity to create new services and applications for vehicle owners, but only if manufacturers can effectively address the needs of their fleet customers. For organizations that have been slower to deploy connected vehicle technology, the challenge might seem daunting, but Geotab has a head start because of our open platform. We provide tools through our software development kit and APIs that offer OEMs a fairly simple way to form a data partnership. Our relationships with passenger vehicle OEMs, heavy-duty OEMs, off-road OEMs, and Tier 1 suppliers have the common goal of commercializing any embedded telematics system. Leading vehicle manufacturers have been including an embedded telematics device into their recent vehicle models. Such devices are capable of collecting OEM-specific vehicle information as well as telematics data after customers provide appropriate consent to the manufacturer. Geotab's OEM platform provides the capability to integrate telematics data from the manufacturer and make it available on MyGeotab. We have several completed OEM integrations, and there are more behind the curtain that you will hear about in the coming months. Latin America has not been a huge focal point for OEMs when it comes to a connected vehicle. Many don't even offer it at all in those markets, or available only as a special order option. But that is changing. Currently, Brazil is leading the connected services market in the region, mainly due to the GM OnStar and other tests under development by Audi, Volkswagen, BMW, and Ford. That's not surprising when you consider that Brazil assembles and produces half of the passenger cars in Latin America, about 3.5 million in a year. OEMs are also putting more attention on Mexico as a lucrative connected vehicle market. Geotab sees LATAM as a significant opportunity for future OEM partnerships. Fleets have become more sophisticated over the last few years in terms of knowing what data elements they need to effectively run their business and communicating those needs to Geotab. We have taken that feedback from fleets and created an OEM data reference guide. The data points are categorized by importance to the end user: must have, should have, and nice to have. This is provided to OEMs very early on in the negotiations process. Not all OEMs have these data points, but the OEM team at Geotab works with them to try and make them all available. The way I like to explain it is this. 10 years ago, fleets made purchase decisions based on whether a vehicle came standard with anti-lock brakes. If it wasn't available, they'd purchase a different brand that did. Today, fleets are starting to make purchase decisions based on data. If an OEM doesn't provide data on seatbelt status, then fleets will buy from a manufacturer that does. While we have a process for putting together OEM partnerships, I will tell you that everyone is different in terms of how long it takes and challenges that arise during that process. But overall, these are the major milestones in getting it done. OEMs are huge organizations, and sometimes just finding the right executive to talk to can take months. After a couple of initial or exploratory meetings, we mutually decide to move forward. This stage might include a proof of concept or pilot to validate what data we can ingest and how it looks. Sometimes we'll reach out to our resellers to see if they have any fleet customers with the right vehicles that would be willing to participate in a pilot. We always appreciate the help that resellers can provide in pulling these test programs together. Once contracts are signed, we start developing marketing plans and collateral materials and prepare for the official launch. A three-pronged approach is put in place between Geotab, the OEM, and our resellers to bring the product to our mutual fleet customers. At this point, I'll turn it over to Aaron for an explanation into the technical aspects of an OEM data integration.
Thanks, Rob. Now we're going to talk about the three core components that make up the OEM integration offering. The first component is the telematics hardware is installed at the factory by the OEM. The availability of this built-in hardware will vary based on make, model, year, and sometimes even by trim package. The second component is the OEM data platform collects all the data and stores it in its own cloud servers. At that point, it is made available to Geotab via API package. The OEM charges Geotab for this data service. The final component is Geotab has created what we've called the OEM middleware. This server subscribes to the data feeds that are offered by the OEMs and pulls all that data down into the Geotab database. A crucial step in this process is translating the OEM data into data that fits the Geotab data dictionary styles. Geotab handles the billing for both the OEM and the Geotab services. There are pros and cons associated with choosing the OEM data feeds, and we'd like to provide a quick overview. And please note that these are generalizations across multiple OEMs, and each OEM will vary. We recommend you reach out to your PAM or reseller to get more information based on the applicable vehicle that you're looking into. Accelerometer data, ping rate, and expandability are often the three largest caveats to consider when looking at OEM. As you can see here on the chart, what is offered varies and is not always up to the Geotab standard of data quality. Due to the fact that data is collected in a different manner than what we expect from the Go device, this will affect things like reports and rules and how the data is displayed. For example, if something is sending a ping rate every 60 seconds, it will look choppy compared to what you see now on a report from something that's provided by the Go device. In some cases, you may need to create individual groups for the different OEMs so that you can set up rules that apply to their data values that they're sending across as compared to the Go. So there is a little bit of extra effort required sometimes to make sure you're getting the proper flow and look of data that you're used to within Geotab. I'll now turn it back over to Rob for his closing comments before we have a Q&A.
OEM partnerships do provide a winning scenario for our resellers and our mutual customers. We're seeing a shift in attitudes amongst most OEMs when it comes to working with Geotab. Automakers are looking for ways to differentiate themselves, and technology partners like Geotab are becoming more important. OEMs realize they don't have all the answers, and partnerships help them and help us. They are treating us less like a supplier and more like a true partner, which is great. As I said at the beginning, being able to provide customers relevant data without having to physically touch the vehicle opens the market to many more fleets, and that's good for all of us.